I don't know if I could update this description now. Anyways, all right, guys. Well, I told you I would come on live, so I'm coming on live. And I was asked like a tarot and astrology question earlier. Looking at my phone to see if I can find it. Hi, Michelle. I was just saying that I'm looking for one of the questions I had about tarot and astrology. If you have any questions, I am open to try and answer them. Where is it? Here. Nope, that's not it. Oh, here we go. The question that was asked was, how does astrology work when relating to cards? I think it's kind of important, I guess, speaking to somebody who may not potentially be well versed in astrology at all, like maybe assuming that all they know are their sun signs, that I really feel like, hey Darren, what's good? I feel like that astrology is like the macrocosm, and that the tarot kind of reflects very well, kind of what's going on in the cosmos versus the other way around. So, I don't know. I had some ideas earlier, and now, as it's getting later, I'm like forgetting everything I was thinking about. But, I guess for starters, you would probably want a deck that has astrological glyphs on it, because it's kind of like retention. So of course you're gonna have the one and only Tabula Mundi deck. She has glyphs nice and separated on the cards. So like this is Venus, which represents the Empress, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I think something that's assumed a lot, and I was thinking about this earlier when I was on a walk, is that it's almost like when somebody comes to a tarot reader, right? We don't expect the tarot reader to pull all 78 cards and read all 78 cards at once. We know there's a spread for that, but typically that's not how we're gonna go for it, right? They're gonna do a three card spread, a 5 card spread, a Celtic cross. There's some kind of spread, some kind of technique that's being used, that is going to serve the purpose of the question. Astrology is very similar in that regard. It's not like the astrologer that you go to for, like, let's say a natal reading is not going to apply everything, and it's not going to look at the whole chart all at once. They are separating out what it is that they're looking for specifically, depending on the question and all of that kind of stuff. And I think another part of, I think with tarot and astrology is like, when you first get into tarot, it can be overwhelming, because we're in like this information age where we're just like want to download and like get all this information quickly, but we don't learn it that quickly. We learn it through application. Astrology is the same way. There's kind of a language integration that you almost kind of have to learn. And it's not a quick process, like, at all. Like, even though I've been studying astrology forever, like, I still, I would never call myself a master astrologer. I will always call myself a student of astrology, because there's just always something new that I'm learning. There's always something new. But as far as trying to keep it as simple as possible, building astrological sentences is super important and super helpful. And it might seem kind of basic, but I swear on everything I love that that it's gonna be very helpful for you if you ever do look at a chart, that you're not trying to look at everything and analyze everything all at once, that you're actually taking a moment to like sector off like what is it that you're looking at and what kind of information you can pull. So Astro Dice, Darren, I know you have these. I hope you've been practicing. Are you guys putting messages? Hold on, I can't see. Can somebody put a message so I can see, just in case? Stop slacking. Okay, I see your message. Thank you. So let's see. So we have these Astro Dice. You can get them on Amazon. They're not very expensive, but basically what you have is a 12-sided die that has the astrological glyphs for the planets. Okay. You have the planets, your signs. So you can see that. And your houses. And that's basically the main components, like if you're actually looking at a chart, like what it is that you're looking at and what it is that you're reading. So you can use, I would say that you could use the Astro Dice as kind of a way to learn how to structure your sentences. And let me see here. Okay. Now, so we're going to talk about these 3 areas, I suppose. So I always try to think of the planet as like some kind of function, some kind of faculty or facet of ourselves. You know, many of us are very aware, like the moon is the intuition. So if you look at your tarot cards and you know, like the high priestess, she's about, that's one of her keywords, right, is intuition, or the keeper of secrets, things in the subconscious and things like that. For me, it was so much easier to apply what I already knew to tarot versus the other way around. But I think that there is an intersection where, if you're very familiar with your cards and you're very familiar with kind of like these archetypes, you know, that's kind of an overplayed word, but if you're aware of those archetypes, you know that the high priestess can mean somebody is keeping secrets, or that there's something that you need to protect that's within you. That's, you know, like there's this range, right? You have the positive, the negative, the shadow, the light part of the one card. Well, the moon in an astrology chart will also carry, that symbol of the moon will also carry all of that weight. So instead of looking at picture for triggers, you're looking at the symbol and you're just kind of acknowledging that it all exists on that glyph. It all exists there. You know what I mean? What did I have out before? The Empress. So what I like about the Tabula Mundi cards is that the astrological glyphs are like separated from the image. So for me, since I can look at this and like I already, in my brain, I'm already like, oh, okay, beauty, love, money, like all, you know, my keywords kind of just come to play. And then I use the picture as a nuance to help me like create my story, if you will. But you can do this the other way around. Like every time that you're looking at your Empress card or you're reading it, you know, you want to almost like start attaching what you already know about the Empress to the Venus glyph. So that when you look at an astrology chart and you're only looking at that symbol in a big old wheel with a whole bunch of other crap going on, that you know that that the Venus sign is going to be very resemblant of what the Empress would represent in tarot, the good, the bad, and the ugly of whatever, you know, facet that is. The Thoth deck also has it. I know, Becky, you have the Tarot of the Vampires by Ian Daniels, and that one also has the astrological glyphs on the cards as well. If you don't like the Thoth deck or the Tabula Mundi deck, which if you don't like the Tabula Mundi, I don't know what to tell you. Is it this one? It might not even be this one. No, I have a Rider-Waite Smith deck that I actually wrote the astrological glyphs on so that I can try to get the information from. So I think, Becky, I think you came in a little bit later. What I was saying earlier before was that one of the things about tarot and astrology is that one of the main things I think that it's a good segue is learning kind of like how to build an astrological sentence. And then I started talking about the astro dice, the astro dice, where you have your planets on one, which you can get on Amazon. You have your planets on one, your signs on another, and then your houses on another. And so I had started talking about the function. So we know, like I was saying, the high priestess or okay, let's just talk about the empress because I have her out. The empress is kind of like this part of you that's about love and money and thanks, Olivia. So it's like that function, right? So when you break up the major arcana, so a lot, like, it was funny because my very first deck was a Tarot de Marseille deck. It was a 22 card deck, but I almost wish that it was like a 22 major, like, soft deck, because I would have seen those astrological symbols and I probably would have went and applied for them way earlier than I did. But that's okay. Everything happens in its due time. Okay, so planets are facets of ourselves, right? The sun is our, like, kind of our ego, how we shine, what is our vitality, like, just that aura, if you will. The moon is our subconscious, it's our inner world. It's how we kind of, that default state that we find ourselves in. Some people say it's the soul, kind of depends who you talk to and their philosophy, etc. We're not going to talk about the ascendant. I want to talk about the ascendant, but we're not going to talk about it in terms of tarot and astrology because, yeah, still trying to hash that one out. What's next? Sun, moon, Mercury. How do you talk? How do you speak? Your intellect, almost like your thinking process, your intellect, if you will. The sun is also your intelligence, but Mercury is the messenger, so it's what you're speaking, how you're perceiving things, how you're, reading things and whatnot. And then Venus is kind of your love nature, how you receive it mostly. And then Mars is kind of like your assertion, your aggression, or how you show love. A lot of people don't really see that, but there's that yin yang thing. So, it doesn't have to be, I mean, like, old traditional astrology was very much like she, he, and all of that kind of stuff, but it's more about the masculine and feminine in terms of assertion and reception. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and that's just how the energies flow. So, so that's that. So those would be your personal planets, right? Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Those are like your main personal planets. And a lot can be read or said about that in a person. So I guess the exercise you could do is, you could take your Empress card. Like, I don't know, if you're struggling with, like, maybe how you're receiving love, or, like, I don't know, you want to know what's going on, like, with your love nature. And now, love is extremely big, right? It's not just romantic love. It can also be familial love. It could be friendship love. It could be all that kind of stuff. Your love of things, material things, it's all of it. It's all contained in that one glyph, right? It's all contained within the Empress card. She kind of handles those things. So then you would have the expression of that. So for me, for example, in my natal chart, I have my Mercury is in Aries. Is it in Aries? Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It's in Aries. So when I get mad, if I get excited or I get upset, I can talk extremely, extremely fast. To the point where I will annoy myself when I have to, like, edit a video or something like that. So, but that's the nature of Aries. It's fiery. It kind of I can just blurt things out sometimes, and it comes out the wrong way. People might receive it the wrong way, but it's kind of like that martial energy that kind of comes through the way that I speak. And then you have other people, let's say somebody has their Mercury in Taurus, they may speak a little bit more at a steadier rhythm, like kind of a slower pace, kind of more consistent, not kind of all over the place. So that's how your signs work. Your signs are kind of like the verbiage. It describes how the planet is working. And even if you don't apply all these other like techniques, rulership, and this and this and that, you can still start to get a sense of how it could work in a good way, how it could work in a difficult way. Excuse me. And what else? Then we also have, then you have your houses. So one way that I was trying to contemplate this, right? I was like, how do I explain houses to a tarot reader who doesn't really know too much about astrology? Basically, when we read tarot cards, some people might just kind of go freestyle with it, but because astrology is more technical, we would want to come at it in some technical way. So something very classic in in tarot is the Celtic cross, right? It's a consistent spread with spread positions, and those positions represent something. That's how the houses work. The houses represent something specific. So, the first house represents yourself. The second house represents your resources and your money, and then, so on and so forth. But that talks about an area of life. So in this area of life, this is kind of what's going on. So I hope I'm not like too far off, like that you can understand what I'm trying to convey. But I guess the houses spread, I would say do the houses spread, only to be more, I don't want to say technical, that's not really the word I'm looking for, but to kind of keep up a consistency in your mind for the terminology, because I think it's important that the terminology remains very, very, very strict when you're learning it, so you don't confuse yourself. So because there's a zodiac spread, but even though in the zodiac spread the energies are very similar, in my mind it kind of irritates me, because I'm like, but the zodiacs are like, that's how something's happening, but you're pulling a card to say how something's happening. You're actually doing the houses spread. You know what I'm saying? So do the houses spread and say that it's the houses spread, the zodiac house, or I'm sorry, the astrological house spread, and then pull your cards in there and see what's going on in there. So you can do that. You can use Astro Dice just to see like what you've retained. You can use it just kind of as practice, just to kind of see like what have you retained. Make yourself a cheat sheet. I know it sounds kind of stupid, and every book gives one, and people don't know what to do with it. And I think that's something that's lacking in a lot of books. People don't actually explain how to put this information together, because I'm like, that helps me because it's a reference, because I know what I'm doing. But what about somebody who wants to learn? There's no segue for that. So astrological sentence is super important. And again, don't try to rush. Don't try to, you have to take your time. Hi, Jennifer. You have to take your time and, really, that whole, it's the fool's journey and, and all of that stuff. Like astrology is that it's this long journey, and you try and you fail and you grow and you mess something up but you learn and you grow from it. There's been times where, and I kind of just journal a lot, kind of write things down, or voice record a lot. Like if I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I think that this has something to do with this, astrologically, like something astrological I noticed, and then some event happened or something like that. I think that's another way of applying astrology as well, is kind of making note of world events that kind of happened as well, because it's easier. It's kind of like tarot, right? Because tarot is that visual medium. I think that's something else too. Astrology is very cerebral. It's way more cerebral, and tarot is way more visual. So, but it's the same way that when you pull a card one day and then like you're out that day, and then you're like, oh, and now I know what my card means. And it really has nothing to do with the actual like the esoteric meaning of the card, and it's super surface, and it's like, this is what happened, like, like for example, you get the Tower card, and then like you broke a glass later on that day, right? You notice that comparison. And it would be similar to, let's say, because Towers represents Mars, so it would, let's say, be something to do with Mars. I'm trying to think. Mars transiting your second house, because your second house is about your personal resources, and your glass broke. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that. It's kind of, I think astrology is more about that observation point, and understanding what those cheat sheet keywords are and what that means. The same way that you would find that on your daily pull for tarot. So the easiest way I can think of in order to really try to apply astrology, if you're trying to go towards the astrology route by itself, is to follow the moon transits, because she's the quickest mover. So at least every day, every 2 days, she's making an aspect to a planet. And so you can just start practicing, you could just start going, and you don't even have to worry about anything else. Just take your time. Just go, okay, so, the moon moved into, I don't even know what sign we're in right now. Wait a minute. Hold on. What the heck sign are we in right now? I'm being so bad. We're in Aries right now. Okay, so the moon is in Aries. So did something spark you up that made you extremely like passionate or fiery or upset or like really horny? Like, I mean, there's like this dynamic here that's happening with this, is there some new idea that you were trying to push forward? And this is all with the moon in Aries. This is all High Priestess and Emperor together. So what's going on if they're kind of working together? How would that make sense? And maybe I should probably pull the cards. I don't have them in order, so I'm gonna be sitting here looking for them. And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to try to describe it. Like, I know what I'm talking about, but I hate feeling like people are not following what I'm saying. Like, I want to make sure that I'm making sense. I haven't touched these guys in forever. There he is. Okay. So with the moon in Aries right now, right? So this is how I kind of deal with astrology and tarot. Okay, thank you, Olivia. This how I kind of like, this is the easiest way to start. And I know a lot of like we kind of pay attention to the moon anyways. I mean, we can't help it, right? But anyways, so the High Priestess and the Emperor. So seeing these two together, let's say we know that they're actually working together. The Emperor is, in a way, describing the Priestess. Then what would that mean, right? What is she, if she's the one who's the keeper of secrets, she's the one who's holding on to subconscious data and whatnot, then if the Emperor is a function of her, then maybe, like I said, maybe she could have been upset, maybe she's trying to start something new, maybe she's trying to push through and start some kind of fiery, I don't know. I mean, and it's Friday too, right? So, you could think like, okay, she's trying to get jiggy with it. I don't know. Or maybe she's just like very feverish on like trying to get push an idea or a project out, trying to break some glass ceilings, trying to, This is Sparta, start some shit. I mean, it could go in so many ways, but this is more right, that internal feeling, that internal function with the moon, right? That internal feel, and then the fire of wanting to make something happen, and almost like more action is happening than words are happening, right? So that's kind of how I would see it. So I would just, almost like hold on to the priestess, keep her out, and if you have more than one deck, you can do this. It'll be easier to do this if you have more than one deck. Just kind of have one deck dedicated to watching the moon transits. And then you can find the according sign and see how would that function for you. Kind of just in a generic kind of context, because technically we're all gonna handle these different energies in different ways, but how does it work for you? How does it manifest for you? Pay attention. Like, I know earlier today I wanted to smack some folks. I'm not even gonna lie. I just oh, and of course the really, really extremely sad news about the recent passing of Anthony Bourdain. Much love and light to him. Seriously, like, oh my god, that right there, that was like a dagger in the heart. Like, serious. Like, I didn't even expect for it to hit me that hard, but that was definitely jolting. So that was definitely some Aries action happening. It was just like jolting news, like, ugh, and it just like stuck within me. So it's been like something internal emotionally I've been holding on to all day. You see what I'm saying? And I know it's not just me, but this is how like something like a world event or something that can manifest itself by just kind of being hyper aware of like what the moon, what sign the moon is in, and then as you start, and you just do that for a while, do that for a month, do that for 2 months, and then after 2 months, switch to Mercury, and then start paying attention to what Mercury is doing, and just focus on Mercury and see how your communication changes when he changes sign. How does your communication, get affected when he's in retrograde? All of that kind of stuff there. So, I guess that's one way. And then I would pull out the according card. So if you're kind of studying it and you're starting it, and you can use tarot as a way to like maybe remind yourself to pay attention that day of what's going on with a certain planet, if you want to just focus on a certain planet and just get to know it. I mean, it's really about just being aware about it. And then after some time, it'll be easy for you to kind of switch and go, okay, yeah, well, the magician is definitely different than the high priestess, so the moon's function is way different than that of Mercury. So it's just kind of cross-pollinating your language between tarot and astrology, and really building that astrological sentence, like I said, is the biggest deal. So right there with just tracking the moon signs, you're using 2 die, or you could use 2 die as well. You can mark them or something. Your planet and your sign. When you're tracking the moon, I mean, she changes signs almost every 2 days, so you don't necessarily want to pay attention to the houses, because she's just going to run through everything anyways. But when you start getting to like Venus and Mars, they move a little bit slower. Their orbit's a little bit slower, so you might want to consider looking at what house are they moving through, because then that might tell you where to pay attention to see how that function is being affected. So not everything moves so fast. As we move out, everything starts moving a little bit slower. So yeah. Sorry, do you guys have any questions or anything? I know it's like Friday night and people are like out and chilling and stuff, but it is what it is. My hair be doing the most. It's not even funny. Let me see if I can find my deck. I know it's around here somewhere. What did I do with it? That's really strange. I don't know. I probably put it away or something. But Yeah, I have a Rider Waite. Like I said, I kind of did the same thing. So when you're looking at the Thoth deck, the Thoth also has the astrological glyphs on it, except they're buried in the artwork. When you get to the minor cards, they're kind of buried in the artwork. Okay, I guess yeah, I'm gonna save the minor cards for another video, because when you have art, I trimmed these, by the way, but you do, on the bottom you have the astrological glyphs, but they're just so tiny. So if you can't see, that's probably not going to be helpful. So like the Tabula Mundi is totally like, ta-da, here I am, you can't miss me, even if you wanted to try, you know. So I think that could be what once I started digging into the Thoth system, that I really enjoyed. Actually, it was like, because like, look at this Emperor. All you're getting is this red color, which is super Aries thing, right? You think Aries season in the United States or in the northern hemisphere, you know, you're like, okay, here's the spring rushing through, the heat is coming. It is coming. It's the start of the warm season. So, you know, that's not really a proper astrological way of thinking about it, but kind of lucky if you live above the equator. That kind of is the case for us, that the weather tends to somewhat coincide. It used to coincide with the season changes, but that's not really the case anymore. I think they need to update the calendar to make more sense, but I'm gonna stop talking about that. I'm starting to rant just a little bit. So what are some other points for people just starting off and want to get into this? Let me think. Okay, there's a lot of information out there about astrology. Astrology is a big, you know, so when people say, can you tell me how tarot and astrology work together? I'm just like, I can try to fit in what I can in a certain time frame and hope that I'm reaching the right folks. So you have astrology, and then you have like schools of thought, right? So you have like Eastern astrology and Western astrology. So we want to go over to, I don't know anything about Eastern astrology techniques or anything like that. Shut your face, Darren. Shut your face. I'm getting there. Okay. You want to, no, but this is serious though. For anybody who wants to start looking up their own information and wants to start digging around, I think it's important that they kind of know this, you know, because they might not know where to go. And so you yes, I got defensive. I'm sorry. Anyways, Western astrology, Western traditional astrology, mostly what you're wanting to focus on when it comes to tarot is your classical planets. So that's all your planets from the sun up to Saturn. And just trust me, that's enough. Trust me, that is enough information. It's basically all sitting right in the major arcana for you. So what's that? That's the planets, and then your 12 zodiac signs, and then you're pretty much good to go. Kind of learn how to speak on those, and then you'll be good. And then if you want to start digging into the deacons, yeah, you're probably going to want to just go ahead and check out Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast. That is a very big subject as well, but those are represented, the 36 deacons with the Chaldean order are represented in the English school tarot deck. So that would be the Thoth deck and the Rider-Waite Smith deck. Oh, okay. If you like Marseille, you can definitely apply what you know from astrology to Marseille, but it's not very apparent reading Marseille to trying to learn astrology, if that makes sense. All right, what else do I got? Tarot astrology, Western, classical planets. Then probably the next thing you would probably want to go for, but I'm guessing you might want to take a checklist or something, is rulership, exaltation, fall, and detriment. Because this is going to help you nuance out your minor arcana cards, but this is also going to help you when if you're ever looking at a chart and you start looking around, this is going to help you to determine whether a planet is functioning well or well dignified or ill dignified, which is tarot proponent of elemental dignities technique. So then we have that kind of cross pollinates as well somewhat. The idea works for both, but they're applied a little bit differently just because they're different tools, because essentially astrology is a tool and tarot is a tool. So so anyways, I think I'm starting to fade a little bit. I hope that this has been helpful, and do you have any questions, Darren? I see you. Or is there two of you guys in here? Who's here? Let me see if I can see who's here. It might not show me. No, that's inviting members. No, I think it's just us in here. So, all right. If you don't have anything else, I'm gonna just go ahead and maybe record a YouTube video or something. What do I have to do? Oh, I have to do the I'll have all the, okay, I got you. Yeah, I'm just starting to fade a little bit. Like I started kind of late, and I just had a couple of things to do. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely get on here again. So, it'll give whoever wasn't here, love you back. To give whoever didn't have a chance to watch it, to kind of watch the recap and stuff, and then you guys can compile your questions, and then, toss them at me in the next one, or even if you guys if you want to message me with your questions, that would be great, because then I can kind of maybe organize them or something like that. So, okay. Anyways, this has been great. Thank you for chilling with me. Much love, many blessings. Peace.